His revealed truth and His righteousness. I greet you all with the greeting words of peace from the Lord of the worlds. May Allah's salam alaikum. We want to open up the forum for those who think that they have a disagreement with me in some of the things that they have heard me teach or say. We want you to know that we are not bigoted. If you have a sincere disagreement with me, I want to hear it. I'm not talking about people who just really have no scriptural basis for anything that you have to say, and you just want to come in here and vent your envy and jealousy against me. I care nothing about your envy and your jealousy. People who are possessed of wisdom are never ruled or motivated into action based on jealousy and envy. But that is not something that you act on outwardly. That is something that you go to war with yourself inwardly and overcome and strive to overcome. And to those who like to try and make judgments, you should remember that for the most part, if you are a person who was educated, if you allow me to use that term loosely, if you were educated in America, you know that the Constitution or the justice system of America says that a man has a right, a man or woman. You can get away with saying man because woman has the word man in her name too. And when you look at the word, then you would understand that even though it sounds like one word, it is actually describing what kind of man she is. She is the womb man. So we can just say a man has a right to be judged by a jury of his peers, of his or her peers. Why the scripture says that the words of the prophets, they're not subject to you, to the prophets. If you got a disagreement with something that Jesus said, you go and get one of his peers or a group of his peers and show that they disagree with him. Or otherwise, you shut up. It is as far as I'm concerned, if I am truly the Son of Man, then there's nobody on this earth qualified to judge me. The Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath day. And the scripture said, but the Lord is in his holy temple. Didn't say let all the earth judge him. It says let all the earth keep silence before him. So I want you to know that only heads make judgments. No other member of your body makes any judgment about anything. If you put your foot on a nail, the foot cannot remove itself. Head makes the judgment move. Now, you all think that you've been playing with the Word of God for so long that you have convinced yourself that you're about to find out that you was wrong. You think that because the scripture says the Lord is long suffering towards us. When someone just go off on you at the drop of a hat or keeps on putting up with something you're doing, you make the mistake of thinking that it ain't nothing they can do about you. To find out you was wrong. So I want to there's many people. I've told the whole world that I'm the Lamb of God. All of those titles you read of one who was coming, the Spirit of Truth, the Son of Man, the Lord, the Mahdi. All of what you read can be summed up in one chapter of of the book, because no matter where you reading in the book, and when I say the book, I'm talking about the covenant of God, the book. He said to the prophets, he said, when Allah made a covenant through the prophets. And before you could ask, what is the covenant? He said, what I have given you of book and wisdom.
Son.of.man.
What is it?
Hey, how you doing today, son?
This evening, the proper question would be, how are you this evening? I want y'all to learn to address. I'm trying to get you ready. If you are sincere in your listening to me, I'm trying to get you ready to represent the new type of ruler that's going to be on this earth. So I'm doing pretty good this evening. How are you?
I'm going to let you finish. I'm going to hold my question.
What was your question? If I created a question in your mind, you got a right to ask it.
You just said I need to shut my mouth and listen sometimes, so I'm going to listen.
All right, baby brother. I want all of you all to know that whenever I offer you a correction, it's because I care how you look in the eyes of other people. You know, it's one thing for us to run around here. I look at all these people giving themselves awards, each one giving themselves people walking up to them, giving them awards, prestigious awards, at least what they call prestigious, and giving them honor and whatnot. And when I look at that, you know, how can you claim to be civilized while all around you are savages? How can you claim that the award that you have is, Minister Farrakhan say something. He was addressing some, I think it was some lawyers back in '79. And Minister Farrakhan was talking to them, and he said, you know, concerning all of the prominent people that was in front of him, and I'm paraphrasing. I wish I hadn't. I played that tape so much that it got tangled up one day and I think it got lost or something. I wish we'd have had, you know, the DVDs in. But anyway, he said that if we were as prominent as we all think we are, we would have produced prominence where prominence did not exist. Yeah, I don't think they understood him, even there. It's clapping. But you can measure the true degree intelligence of an individual by how intelligent those are who are around him, and what effect that person has on people that come in contact with him. You can take a magnet. Not only will a magnet draw a piece of metal to itself, iron, it will draw a piece to itself that has no magnetism in it. But if you rub those two pieces together, the piece that had none will go away with some, if only temporarily. So, you know, I think I have, if you go online and look at some of the works that I've been doing, my followers, I think you will come to the conclusion that I'm not just standing up talking and telling you that I care about you. The way that you show that you care, when you see your loved ones in error, you correct them. When you see that they are good, you demand that they be better. As I tell people all the time, especially those of you who are my followers, you know that only thing I ask out of you is to do your best. Whatever job you have, get the best that you could do. Then you will never have to say you're sorry. And if I can show you a better way, I will make that known to you. That's why sometimes you know, I will say this too. If I get on you about something you're doing, you say, well, I did the best I could. Because I told you the way that you needed to do it, and the best you could have done was to do it the way I told you. So, and when you really learn, take words for granted. The best that you can do is to do it right. And what did we make the darkness for? For rest? Well, when you don't know, it's time to stop working. Well, if it ain't right, I'll just do it over. It's always enough time to do it over, but ain't never enough time to find out how to do it right, huh? So that's why I correct you. And I correct you generally where you mess up at. And I'm careful not to step on your manhood. And if I do, I always make sure that can't nobody laugh at you or ridicule you, because I explain why I correct you. I'm not trying to rob you of your manhood. I'm trying to give it back to you. The white man robbed you. I don't care how old you got. You was always boy. Hey, boy. And you answered him. And then when you wasn't boy no more, then he make fun of you and call you uncle. Why he was doing that? The reason he was calling you uncle was because Yaqub wasn't our God, he was our brother. And the mind that's in them was given birth to by Yaqub, our brother, which makes them his children, his sons, which makes us their uncle. He ain't gonna say nothing. And that's one of the reasons why no matter how angry I get, I remember that some of them, most of them, Now that they know who I am, they shut their mouth at me. And so I'm going to, since they holding up to what they was told to do, I'm going to hold up to what I was told to do, which is remove that curse from them, forgive them all that stuff that they did that got me here, and offer them the same salvation that I'm offering everybody else. Because that's what's written. And if you need me to show you where it's written, I can do that too. Like the foolish man come in here asking me, he didn't come in here really. He typed it. Defending the devil. I have never defended the devil. But he still thinks that white flesh is devil. White flesh ain't devil. The devil is in that white flesh. But the flesh itself is not the devil. The flesh is no more than you get some people that's so good. You know, you got some people that's so good at riding a horse that they look like they can sit on him without bouncing. And they just that good a rider. And so they make it look like they sitting down, but they ain't. But anyway, the horse and the rider one. Yet they're not the same one. That's obvious. So likewise, the flesh and the mind that's in the flesh are one, but they're not the same one. Do you understand? Okay. So I remember I had 3 little white ladies coming in the bakery when I was over there. And that was before the FBI showed up Monday. But anyway, they came and, sat down and was asking me about coming to their church to speak. And so I started telling them about white people being devils and all that kind of thing. And they said, they're not ready for this. And I say, yes, I know. I know. It's hard to get ready for. And they didn't get mad.
So what about all the black people that suffer by the hands of the white man? Are they going to get justice?
That's what you got when you got me. You're getting justice right. You're getting justice right now. I already see you wasn't listening. I told you I'm going to offer everybody salvation. And I'll show you an example. If a lion attacks you and kill you, most after that lion, and they would hunt him out and kill him. And in reality, the lion, if he attacks you, he's doing what lions do. He's acting out the nature that's in him. And when most people would go kill him, they taking out revenge. But it's wrong to take revenge on a creature for just doing what he was made for. I mean, doing according to his nature. You were put here to learn his nature and rule over him. And so there's much to be learned. You know, I have it in me to fight. I have it in me to kill. But not unjustifiably. You know, as I was telling you, the time I was selling Muhammad Speaks, and me and a man got into it. And even though I left bleeding because his wife hit me in the head with that pipe, I can tell the brothers where to find that man. Because I felt like I was wrong. Because I should have handled that differently. I wasn't but 22 at the time. And believe me, you know, if I thought I had a reason to really fight, I wouldn't have to go get nobody. And you know, I couldn't. You can't fight as hard. I know I can't. If I don't think I'm really right, I just. That's why I never pick a fight. You know, never. If you ever have to choose between a man who's defending or who is fighting because he's patriotic and defending his home or his family or whatnot, and you a mercenary, you a fool to go and fight a man who's a patriot. I don't care how much they paying you. That's a fight you ain't gonna never win. So, you know, even if you kill him, you're gonna have to kill some more. Until you kill them all. You know, and remember this, God is always on the side of the one who is in the right. It's just like the law here. You notice it, even the crooked system here, they're always on the side of the one who, for the most part, they're on the side of the one who was defending himself. But when they show up, they come in to get the one who's aggressive. Right? Okay, Allah loves not the aggressor. So I want to now give those who think that I'm not the Mahdi. Many people from overseas, they have a problem with me saying that. I remember once a man told me, he said, Prophet Muhammad said the Mahdi will be out of his family. And I told him, I said, I am out of his family. And he wanted to call me a lie. And so I just took him over here. You know, what did Allah say about Jesus? He said, "Oh Jesus, cause thee to die and exalt thee in my presence." Huh? And now you see why I talk about Jesus more than I do anybody. Huh? You ever notice that you hear me quoting Jesus more than anybody? Right? That's the promise he was made. I will exalt him in my presence. So let's see here. So I'm going to let you see something there. Now, this is in the book of, let's go to Matthew, the Gospel according to Matthew. And go to the 12th chapter. And remember, I told you, all of the prophets were Muslims. What is the meaning of Muslim? One who submits, one who surrenders to God. And what is the meaning of Islam? Entire submission to what? To the will of God. Now, look at this the 46th verse. It says, while he yet talked to the people, his mother and his brethren stood without, desiring to speak with him. A lot of people ain't never gave that a second thought. But if his mother and his brothers, his siblings, Jesus had brothers and sisters, you know. So his siblings, if they could find him and ask him to come out to talk to him, your question, why wasn't they in there already listening to him? Mary was not his follower. Neither was Joseph and his other brothers. They didn't follow Jesus. You never thought about that, did you? Now, and one said unto him, behold. We don't say behold now, do we? No. What we say? Look, man. You said, look, your mother and your brethren standing outside desiring to speak with you. And Jesus said, he stretched forth his hand toward his disciples and said, behold my mother and my brethren. For whosoever shall do the will of my Father, which is in heaven, the same is my brother and mother. What's a word that stands for and covers when you say my brother and my sister and my mother? Your family. Is that right? Yes, sir. So when Prophet Muhammad said the Mahdi will come out of his family, well, I'm of his family. I can't say the same for most of y'all listening to me, but I can make you of our family. That's one thing I'm glad that the Father the movie, The Godfather, they could make you part of their family. As long as you was going to do the will of the Father. See, he told you he was going to be like the Most High. That's the devil said that. Now you know they the devil. You see, he know he the devil. He just used to get a kick out of it when he'd be talking and he said, "What's up, bub?" and he'd say that in front of you. And he know, I heard him do it. I used to hear him do it. I'd be wondering why they chuckling and going on just because say what's up. But I just say they must, white folks really enjoy each other. Well, they was having a private laugh at our expense. One of the names of the devil is Beelzebub, Bub for short. Do you understand? Now, if you white and didn't know that, see, they ran the game on you too. Most of them know that. They didn't coin the phrase "speak of the devil" for nothing. So, but remember, the devil was one of the sons of God too. Tell me something. How many of you all know something about electrical engineering? Where did you learn that from? Whose school did you learn it from? You learned that from white people. I learned how to. I'm a barber by trade. I know how to handle straight razor and all that stuff. I'm talking about the to look like you know what you're doing. I mean, anybody can give somebody a shave with a straight razor, but to stand on one side of the chair and do that, you got to know a little fancy stuff. Do you understand? I learned that from them. I mean, you look at these sewing machines and stuff that you know how to do. They help put that knowledge in our head. Was it the truth? Yes, it was the truth. It was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also with them to present himself. He's just the son of perdition. In other words, you learn a whole lot of knowledge from him, truth, but not righteousness. And what you learn from him, if you ain't careful, it'll lead you away from God. It leads you away from righteousness. Now, if I say something that you don't agree with, I'll discuss it with you. I want all of you to be able to agree with me. You know, I miss Dr. MacArthur. You know, not only was he my physician, he was my friend, you know, and I sure hated when he passed. But when you went to Dr. MacArthur, I mean, he had a way about treating you that, you know, I mean, he wouldn't just bring you in there and diagnose you and send you on. He always, and most doctors, I'm not trying to, but I had personal experience with him. Dr. MacArthur would show you in layman's terms. He would tell you in layman's terms, not just what was wrong with you, but, you know, why and how you got that way and that kind of stuff. And then what led to it, what could have led to it. And he knew what questions to ask you to help him make the diagnosis. And so physicians have to be able to question you. And they need to know something about your history in order to be able to help you. If the one thing, the main thing that I found that they do that for is to win your trust. Because if he can tell you, if he learned enough about you to start telling you some things that you didn't think he should know, but you already told him, and you don't know you told him about some of the things that you say hurt you and that kind of thing, And he could just about tell, just like you notice when you get high blood pressure, the average doctor tell you, look, you're going to have to lay off the salt and don't eat no more pork for a while. And I tell you when you can go back to eating pork. And you say, how you know I've been eating pork? Because you got high blood pressure. Because he know it's poison to you. But anyway, as you trust the doctor, what happens? When the doctor tells you what to do to help yourself, because you trust him, you will 9 times out of 10 go and do what he tells you. Do you understand? You see, it's bedside manner is very important when dealing with people that are strangers until, I mean, most of the time when you do need a doctor, you may not even be able to get to the one that you know so well. You have to meet a stranger. So a doctor or a hospital, you notice the root word of hospitality is hospital. Because when you go to a hospital, they welcome you in and they are ready to try to help you. That's why the word hospitable, hospitality, all of it has the word hospital in there. Right? Okay. And so the bedside manner is very important. And I remember once one of my sons got scalded and I took him there and Dr. MacArthur gave me one of the coldest looks because the baby's foot was ballooned up and whatnot. And he, I could tell he thought we had done something to the baby. And I explained it to him and he, friendship is friendship, but he's a caregiver and not only does a doctor promise not to do harm, part of that is if he sees somebody that look like they're doing some harm to somebody who can't help themselves or to anybody else, he'll report you. That's his job. That's part of not doing harm. You understand? So it's much into it. So I would like you to think deeper. It is when you come in front of me, what would you expect from the Lord? You expect the Lord to come here telling you what you already knew? Or come here taking you deeper into what you thought you knew and then you find out you didn't know as much as you thought you did? Well, ain't that how you leaves out of here when you listen to me? You find out you didn't know as much as you thought you did? Well, I couldn't make you feel that way and make you understand that if I did not have greater knowledge than you. You see? So whenever I give you a correction, receive it in the spirit that I gave it, out of love and caring for you. You understand? So, when all human beings are able to receive righteous guidance and turn down any guidance that is not righteous, then human beings will be what they need to be in order to rule this universe. See? We look for a new heaven and a new earth where nothing but righteousness exists. Now, you ain't that we. You ain't in that. That was strictly heads talking. Now, as I was telling you, that whenever you hear the terms of the prophesied Messiah or the Mahdi or the Lamb of God, different places in the scripture that prophesying of one coming, the prophet like Moses. And prophet don't always mean a foreteller of the future. It also is another word for preacher. Do you understand? And so you have to be able to make a distinction. And likewise, for just as I'll show you an example. There are words the same, but you don't know which one is a listener and have a good command of the language. And if you don't have a real good command of the language, you might spell prophet and prophet the same, and it may not mean the same. Even though a prophet is a prophet. Prophet is a profit to whoever receives it. Do you understand? And both of them basically have the same partial same meaning, because profit means benefit. Huh? And any messenger of God who prophesies or comes to you and foretells the future, it's a benefit to you if you pay him attention and act on his warnings, right? As I've told you, you can either profit by my presence or be destroyed by it. That's up to you. There's no such thing as a warning that's going to last forever. There came an end to Noah's warning people. I think his was 120 years he warned the people. There came an end to that. And so there's no, and when the end comes, those who gave heed to the warning profited. Those who didn't got destroyed. Huh? Okay. So when you read of all of these things, if I just was standing up here saying that, what is the point for me to stand up here and say, well, all these things in the book that's talking about a man coming, the Lamb of God, the Mahdi, even though the Mahdi is something that you don't actually find that word in the Holy Quran. But you find him described. Allah said, I'm going to create a mortal. Well, mortals were already here. So it goes without saying that nobody has to ask what is a mortal. So nobody did ask that question. And so a mortal, what is that? Right? So when Allah said, I'm going to create a mortal of sounding clay of black mud, fashioned into shape. this was said 50,000 years ago. And you notice the term, when thy Lord said to the angels, create a mortal. Okay. And another place, it says, when thy Lord said to the angels, I'm going to place a ruler in the earth. Now, these lords wasn't the same Lord. One's name was Yaqub, and the other one's name was Shabazz. Now, Mr. Shabazz was the one that spoke 50,000 years ago. Now, look, I'm not speaking in the closet. You know, I'm out here in front of everybody saying these things. And if you have a bone to pick with me, which now you know that a bone is a word or whatnot, the messenger said scientists, they don't have to take a whole book, brother. They take one word and argue with each other about one word. And have you take you down the road of peace, meaning take you down into the truth, the road of truth, and have you looking for something in truth to prove what you're saying. See, as he told you, he said, I can show you how I can, how to attack what I'm teaching. He said, and then I can show you how I can ward off your attack. You see. You know, and no teacher can teach the depth of a subject. No depth of knowledge on it. And it's unintelligent for him to even open up that subject. Unless he says, the messenger said when he asked Allah, when he was visiting in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, he asked him to teach him about the sun. And when he went away and thought about it, he came back and he began teaching him about the sun. And before you start questioning him a lot about the sun, as to what Master Farad Muhammad taught him, he said, but not much though. So don't be getting your ears tuned up. He made it clear that he didn't have a depth of knowledge on the sun. And do you know why? Because it's written, no man has depth of knowledge of the Son but the Father. Neither any man depth of knowledge of the Father but the Son. And he to whom the Son will give more knowledge. So, you know, that he said this, he said, but I can say we have a mighty son. His name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God. Yes. And so all of those prophecies of one coming is me. And so in the 40th chapter of Psalms, it simply says, in the 7th verse. Remember, I was told to eat the book up and speak with it. Then said I, lo, I come. In the volume of the book is written of me. So everything you read in the book, Jabril, go set that arrow on 76 or 77. So in the volume of the book, that's from cover to cover. Volume is length times width times height. From Genesis to Revelation, and from chapter 1 to chapter 114. In the volume of the Word of God is prophecies about me. And that's what I'm telling you. Anybody disagree? You know, if you wasn't so didn't have such a big ego, you would be able to come in here and talk with me about what you disagree about instead of saying all your little stuff behind my back. But most of them, they try to be something they are not. Somebody will recognize their voice when I correct them. Then they can't go back out there pretending to be something that they are not. You understand? So, I tell you what, because I'm brought up something here, you see how when they thought that, they thought Muhammad saying that the Mahdi would come out of his family. You know what they thought that meant? His relatives. And they didn't even understand that, because every human being on the earth is relative to each other. But anyway, it's like all matter in the universe is the same age. But anyway, we have fun sometimes. I'm talking about the table of elements. They all the same age. So anyway, it's just like all truth. All truth. Same age. When we say we make all things new, we are telling you that we make your thoughts about those things new. Do you understand? New, why? Because you never had them before. And so it's new to you. You understand? Okay. And so that's why when we read in the book, it says, surely the remembrance of Allah is what? The greatest what? The greatest force. And so when you understand that, there is no new truth. It's only truth that you discovered, and then you learn it. And as long as you remember that truth about whatever, generally, what makes you search for truth? need. You search for truth. You say, well, why did you go to school? I ask you what you gonna be. Well, I'm gonna be a teacher. Then you go searching through the school system for the knowledge that you need in order to be a teacher, right? And then when you find it, then Allah is with you, because Allah is God. God is the word. And when you got it in your head, then that's with you. Allah is with you then. And then as you, because the truth is Allah. And then when you trying to do that job, the remembrance of Allah is the greatest force to help you do that. Do you understand? All right then. See how I make you know the Father? All right. So, yes. Yes, they can type a question. What's the question?
Michael 12X asks, why did Master Farad Muhammad give us actual facts? And then he says, it is because you can.
Master Farad Muhammad didn't give us actual facts. Muhammad gave us actual facts. Anything about the actual facts, you would know that you could find most of them in any dictionary that is comprehensive. But, you know, just like when we say the land and water of the earth is 196,940,000 square miles. That's actually a rounded off figure. You can find it even more exact when you look in the dictionary. But anyway, learning about the weight and all of that of the earth and all of that, if I asked you how do you weigh the earth, you wouldn't even know. And then you come in here trying to talk about, you know, some actual facts. Only thing is an actual fact is that which you can prove. If you don't know how to prove it, to you, it's not an actual fact. So, you know, you running around here, even the name Michael 12X, there's no X's being given out no more. Because there ain't nobody gonna be formed after me. You never even knew why the X was given. And now you coming around here talking about you an X. An X for what? You don't know the science behind that. But, you know, then what's the term supreme mean? To the highest degree. Huh? Well, the messenger didn't tell you that if you want to talk to Allah, go and read who thought was the supreme wisdom, that little book. That's not what he told you to do. He said if you want to talk to Allah, read the Quran, read the Holy Scriptures. Because he said we all are Allah. And you didn't know that we did not include you. So it's much that I could say, but I don't. And you out there who walking around here still in kindergarten, matter of fact, you're not even in kindergarten because your knowledge has been tainted. You have been misled about the student enrollment and all of those other things. So, but anyway, just like you come in here, you come in claiming you want to show us some actual facts, and you start off with something that's not a fact. Master Farad Muhammad never met any of us. The only one Master Farad Muhammad gave lessons to was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Everything in the way of lessons came from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's an actual fact. But you so arrogant, that's to show you. It don't make no difference if you got black skin or white skin. An arrogant mind is an arrogant mind. Donald Trump don't look no worse than you. Always talking what you don't know to somebody who knows less than you. But at least he got more sense than you, because you'll never hear him try to come and argue with me on nothing. But you rush in here where angels fear to go. So, as the messenger said, just because you can't preach like Paul and the angels, then you want to cuss out the angel. Yeah. So, now, there's something else I wanted you to see. You know what they say about one picture? What's it worth? I want to show you a couple of pictures here. Miss Clinton, I'm not making the mistake that it wasn't a whole lot for me to go look up or study up on for President Obama. But you want to see what kind of person Miss Clinton is? I'm going to show you, and I'm going to comment on it.
We have a responsibility to provide our diplomats with the resources and support they need to do their jobs as safely and effectively as possible. In 2011, during the revolution, then envoy Stevens had 10 agents living on the ground in Benghazi. And then we know in 2012, where the security situation had deteriorated even further, there were only 3 agents assigned to Benghazi. Again, in 2011, 10, and when an ambassador was there, 3, and he brought 2 of his own the night of the attack, which would meet the requisite 5, but there was really only 3 there at any given time. So you could address that. Again, I'm running a little short on time.
Well, he did have 5 with him on September 11th, and
Well, he brought two, right? He brought two with him. There were three there, and there was supposed to be five
but
there.
the point was they were personal security, so they were there to secure him. So yes, he did bring two, and when he got there, he had five. I'm not going to in any way suggest that he or the embassy got everything they requested. We know that they didn't, from the Accountability Review Board, from investigations that were done by the Congress.
We'll certainly never know what the outcome would have been if there had been more agents that night. I guess.
Well, that's not what the professionals, that's not what the experts in security have concluded. If you read the Accountability Review Board.
I read it, Secretary Clinton, it says that security was grossly inadequate.
Well, it said that there were deficiencies within two bureaus.
Now, I want you to notice how disrespectful they are being to her. You see how she waits until they get through with their question?
Yes.
And then as she's answering their question, it does not play into their narrative. So they cut her off and start trying to make a straw woman out of her. They start trying to put words in her mouth using something. Now, remember now, even at the end of all of their investigation, they didn't find nothing to charge her with. But look at how she's handling them. That's what I want you to see. That's presidential. So pay attention.
In the State Department, which we have moved to correct another email from the Ops Center that was forwarded to you from Ms. Abedin on Sunday, April 10th. So he had been there about 5 days, and it indicates that the situation in Ajdabiya had worsened to the point where Stevens is considering departing from Benghazi. This is within 5 days of him going in. Were you aware of that concern within the first 5 days that he had gone in? And did anyone share that with you?
Yes.
Did share that with you?
We were aware because we were really counting.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Let me put it on another player. I don't know why all of a sudden this thing ain't done. Let me see. Just give me a minute. Up and we'll sometimes you know, every time we have something that we trying to get out to you, these things don't want to let us. So just give me a minute. I'm going to try it again. There you go. Let's see. Let's try it on that real player. Yeah. Here it comes. Y'all just give me a minute. It's my poor computer got so many things on it. I guess y'all gonna have to give me something with some more space on it, brother. Let's see. I guess it'll come on in a minute.
We have a responsibility to provide our diplomats with the resources and support they need to do their jobs as safely and effectively as possible.
In 2011, during the revolution, then envoy Stevens had 10 agents with him on the ground in Benghazi. And then we know in 2012, where the security situation had deteriorated.
We have a responsibility to provide our diplomats with the resources and support they need to do their jobs as safely and effectively as possible.
In 2011, during the revolution, then envoy Stevens had 10 agents with him on the ground in Benghazi. And then we know in 2012, where the security situation had deteriorated even further, there were only 3 agents assigned to Benghazi. Again, in 2011, 10, and when an ambassador was there, 3, and he brought 2 of his own the night of the attack, which would meet the requisite staff, but there was really only 3 there at any given time. So if you could address that, again, I'm running a little short on time.
Well, he did have 5 with him on September 11th, and
Well, he brought 2, right? He brought 2 with him. There were 3 there, and there
right,
was
but the point was they were personal security, so they were there to secure him. So yes, he did bring 2, and when he got there, he had 5.
Now, I want you to remember, see, they know that the average person that's listening, if you talk fast enough, you're not going to be totally understood. Now, the secretary said he had 5. Well, if there was only 2 with him, it's because he took only 2 of them with him at that particular point. Maybe he didn't have all 5 of them going every place with him. But I'm going to let you hear Ambassador Stevens also pretty soon. But you know, they tried to do something like them witch hunts used to be. You know, when somebody that the priest didn't like, they just accused them of being a witch. And then they'd have to come out there and prove they wasn't a witch. What? You think them priests didn't know that there was no such thing as a witch? Look, let me tell you something. Under this corrupt sun, under the son of perdition, there ain't nothing new. You're just running the same old game under a new name. Now, but watch, Miss Clinton. See, what they wanted to do is just to make her blow up or break down or something. You understand? But just watch this. And she went in there knowing that. She wouldn't be a very good Secretary of State if she could not handle a trap that she knew was a trap. The first step in avoiding a trap, is to know that it exists. And you can tell she knew that that's what all that was. The problem is the ones who set the trap ain't had sense enough to know she knew. And they sitting up there making laws. Now, let me show you how intelligent this Congress has been. They have made laws that allows people to donate money to politicians in unlimited amounts, and they don't have to disclose who gave it. The Supreme Court didn't make that law. But then Justice Scalia and all of them that was put up there to make sure that things were not unconstitutional, they helped with a 5-4. They helped to legitimize that mischief that all of the Supreme Courts before them had determined that you cannot allow unlimited amounts of money to be put into the United States elections, because people would be able to buy your elections. It's very few people that can be bought. It's very few people that cannot be bought. And I'll tell you something else. Congress never should have passed laws that made the news media free to knowingly publish false information. Because by allowing them to knowingly publish false information, they are allowing people to come in and use propaganda American people to persuade the American people to go the wrong way. Free press don't mean free to lie. All the time they claiming that, you notice all of them claiming that Donald Trump is not qualified to be president, right? But every time you look up one thing about him, then they try to make it, they start talking it over until they quietly okay it. You better wake up. These people are using the media to dumb you down so they can do with the pen and the mouth what they wasn't strong enough to do with bombs and bullets. Donald Trump brought up the word Trojan horse, and he's one of them. And these news networks, as Fox told you, and if you look up behind the closed doors, they probably basically owned by the same people. And they playing good cop, bad cop with you. They've been assassinating the character of Miss Clinton, when all that woman been doing is serving this country for most of her adult life. I got a question for you. How would you, I want to segue away from this for a minute. What do you think about accounting or law? Let's talk about law. When people go on trial for murder or some other kind of crime, What's the first thing they go looking for? I say that when people go on trial, when people get charged with murder or some other crime, you say the first thing they go looking for is what?
Lawyer.
Thank you. Who said lawyer? Okay, I'm glad you're paying attention. What kind of lawyer do they generally look for? Well, we know for criminal law, but what else are they looking for? I didn't hear you, bro. Did you put that battery in that mic, brother? Okay. So I want to talk with you. Turn the mic on. Test.
Testing.
Don't be scared to talk into it. Talk.
An experienced lawyer.
Okay. But what about one right out of law school?
No.
Why? Why not?
Because they generally don't have any.
Talk into the mic, will you?
They don't have any dealing with cases that.
Okay, that's enough. Let's see. If you're going to get yourself operated on, a hernia, what you go looking for? A surgeon? Okay. What kind of, what besides him being a surgeon, what else you think you would ask him? Why would you ask him how much experience he got?
Hernia repair surgeon.
And so, yes, a hernia repair surgeon. But if he fresh out of school, you ready for him? Why not? Huh?
You want somebody that's done it so many times, they can basically like the way I put it, do it and they sleep.
You want somebody that's done did it quite a few times. Huh? Do you know of anyone who would trust a person that's right out of surgical school?
You want them to have wisdom.
Would you trust anybody fresh out of surgical school if you had a choice? I wouldn't either. Then mute your phone back. You don't have to keep on. Mute your phone. Now, what has troubled me, how the news media keep telling the American people that the American people, now they're telling us that we tired of people who know something about politics. We now want somebody who's not don't know nothing about politics. That's how they making Donald Trump acceptable. I heard somebody try to say that George Washington was not a politician. George Washington was a general. George Washington had to hold the Continental Army together. He had to figure out a way to get France and them to help the colonies and stuff. And they talking about he wasn't a politician. when it was, he had to wear so many hats that it was only, I mean, that's one of the reasons why they call him the father of their country. And you want to try to compare Donald Trump to him? No, that apple didn't fall far from the tree. That apple ain't even no apple. Use a kumquat trying to masquerade as an apple. You don't belong on that tree. Let me tell you something. Back in the days of the Western days, everybody didn't go into politics. Politics is a vocation now. It's a field all to itself. To send somebody like Donald Trump into any conference with world leaders with his mentality, let's make a deal. Let me show you something here. You need to see this. We're gonna get back to Miss Clinton. Something else I saw that you need to see. Give me a minute. Pretty old, but you see how I got to go way back to look for it.
In 1961, the United States was engaged in a protracted Cold War with the Soviet Union, Red China, and the Communist bloc. The administrations of President Harry Truman and Dwight D. Eisenhower had tried to contain communism, then roll it back. But Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev remained defiant. With both sides escalating the production of nuclear weapons, confrontation between the superpowers in Cuba, Berlin, and Vietnam threatened to turn the Cold War hot. It was into these circumstances that John F. Kennedy, at the age of 43,
Before I let that play more, are you all aware of what the Cold War was? You hear a lot of people talk about the Cold War. What is the Cold War? A war of what? What else? The war of cultures and ideology. A war of wits. Do you understand? It's a war of diplomacy. The two big ones, trying to get all the little ones to side with them. Based on offers of friendship, offers of freedom, and offers of opportunity, and both of them making a pitch for themselves and against the other. But anyway, they call it it's a chess match. But if the diplomacy breaks down, then the war turns hot. Huh? And diplomacy can break down on either side. If you send the wrong person in there to talk for you, you're going to wind up at war. That's why it's so important that you know that the president, whoever that person may be, a level-headed person. Especially a person that has their ego in check. Understand? I'm going to tell you something else. A lot of people haven't thought about the fact that Donald Trump said about nuclear weapons that if we have them, why have them if you're not going to use them? Why would he talk like that? Have you thought about Donald Trump over or preoccupation with his own self? How in love with himself he is? How do you think he feels when he looks in the mirror and see that he's getting old and probably ain't gonna be around here too much longer? 10, 15, 20 more years, he'll be 90. Huh? You think his mortality has not crossed his mind? So, you with a mind like he has, no, it's not unheard of. He said Japan might have a nuclear weapon and North Korea, and it's going to happen sooner or later. That's what he said. Right? Donald Trump is the kind of person that will look at his own mortality and get angry at you for going to be here when he ain't here no more. Do you honestly think that he was kidding when he said that nuclear weapons that, what you got them for if you ain't gonna use them? He would love, in his mind, more than likely, I'll have put it like that, that if he got to go, don't need to be nothing else here. Now, I know you can't believe that because you wouldn't think like that. Maybe. But the other matter is, that man loves some Donald Trump. It's laughable, but I mean, they told you he bought a 6-foot picture of himself with his foundation money. I mean, are you aware that took some, what was he thinking? A child's mind in a grown man's body. And, I want you to check something out with President Kennedy.
Was elected the 35th President of the United States. The scene
on January 19th, 1961 was a remarkable one. It was the oldest president in the history of the United States, age 70, Dwight D. Eisenhower, sitting down with the youngest president ever to be elected, John F. Kennedy, the day before his inauguration, and sharing with him the most intimate conversation a president of those days could have, which is, what do you do if it comes to making a decision about nuclear use? He opens up the satchel in which the computer-like device is in, that's known as a nuclear football. General Power, the head of the U.S. Strategic Air Command, has started round-the-clock bomber protection of the United States against a potential nuclear attack by the Soviets. Eisenhower says what he wants Kennedy to know about Khrushchev is he's brutal and calculable, that he's going to run hot and cold on you. It struck Kennedy that Eisenhower was referring to the Soviets more as animals to be tamed rather than...
Now remember, that's his opinion. But what Eisenhower meant was that Khrushchev was going to be either hot or cold. You ain't going to have to wonder where his head is at. That's what he was saying. He's going to run hot and cold on you. You know, like the scripture says, I would that you be hot or cold and not lukewarm. Khrushchev wasn't going to play no games with you. If whatever he gonna do, that's what he gonna do. And so, but that, when you notice, when you leave, when you listen to people, recite history to you and then explain it, before you take it and run with it, you better consider who it is reciting it and explaining it to you. If you think that I'm not knowledgeable, I know one thing, I'm more knowledgeable than you on the Word of God. Now, if he's given us a true distillation about what Eisenhower told Kennedy about Khrushchev being hot and cold, he's going to run hot and cold on you. That simply means he's going to be, whatever it is, that's him. You see? And yet, you can also interpret it. I'll give him some benefit. Some of their historians, they try, when they talking to their own people, they try to give you a good distillation. What is warm a mixture of? Hot and cold, huh? You see? So, but you always have to history in hindsight. That lukewarm thing can also be truth in it, more truth in it than the other way, because when Khrushchev snuck them missiles over there, was sneaking them missiles in there, you know, the minute that they put that blockade up, he thought about it and pulled them back. Is that right? So, you know, that showed wasn't totally committed and decisive. But the main thing is, how would you have liked to have Donald Trump there? And we probably don't have to worry about it now, because most of us wouldn't be here. God would have been there to step in and put a stop to your stuff. Just watch that.
Negotiating partners.
I remember, being there at the inauguration day. Oh boy, it was cold. I remember he said we must never negotiate out of fear.
Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate.
But then he went on to say, but we must never fear to negotiate. And I said, uh-oh, there's something new. We've just turned a page.
Kennedy, the first U.S. president born in the 20th century, inspired a youthful generation eager for fresh leadership.
There was a feeling with the beginning of the Kennedy administration that a new era had begun. John F. Kennedy came promising a new frontier. It was going to be a time of endless opportunity. Era was one of the great honors of one's life.
I'll never forget the first time I walked into the White House to see my old friend Ken O'Donnell, who was President Kennedy's appointment secretary. We just looked at each other and burst out laughing. What are people like us doing in a place like this?
I was the youngest member of the Kennedy White House. I had graduated from college last. Everybody was very excited. We knew we were making history. We were ready to go.
I traveled everywhere with him. He was such an exciting man, but also one of great principle.
We were called special counsel, and I was assistant special counsel, and it was just perfectly obvious. The guy had a first-rate mind, and he knew how to use it.
For example, taking Arthur Schlesinger, the most renowned historian in the country, and making him a special assistant to the president in the White House, so that the president had reference to a historian who could put events in perspective.
JFK pulled Dad aside and said, well, Bobby tells me that you're going to come work in the White House. And Dad said, well, obviously as a historian, it's a great opportunity. I'm very excited about it, but I really don't know what I'll be doing. And Kennedy said, well, I don't know what I'll be doing either, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of work for both of us.
During the Kennedy years, I was a correspondent assigned to John Kennedy for the 1960 campaign. I went with him into the White House because I'd already been covering Eisenhower at the White House. Kennedy was a force in this town, well-versed on foreign policy and very articulate.
From the outset of his presidency, Kennedy knew it was important to fully assess his Cold War adversary, Nikita Khrushchev. Advisors had warned him that the hot-tempered Soviet leader would use threats and intimidation to impose his will. Carefully weighing Khrushchev's words and actions, Kennedy hoped to gain a true measure of the man.
President Kennedy wasn't even home from his inaugural day parties when Khrushchev decided to shower him with conciliation. First,
Khrushchev started to shower him with flattery. Could you imagine Donald Trump? No, it ain't hard. What's the name doing him like that? Putin. Calling him great, telling him he's a shrewd businessman, very good, and he lapping it up. And he called Putin great, didn't he? And but watch the difference in a man and a boy. And watch all of the stuff Khrushchev did for Kennedy, and watch how Kennedy didn't pay that no attention, but he paid something else some attention.
Foremost, he decided to publish the entire inaugural speech. Then he was ready to release 2 captured airmen from the reconnaissance plane that had been shot down the previous August. He'd been holding these airmen so as not to help Vice President Nixon in his campaign against Kennedy, and this was now going to be his inaugural gift. Thereafter, he also made known that 500 elderly Soviets would be able to reunite with their families in the U.S. Khrushchev is essentially saying, we want a new start. We have great hopes in this relationship. We really are going to work very early in your administration for some breakthroughs.
Nikita ist in die Weltgeschichte mit seinem Schuh eingegangen.
My father wanted to improve relations with the United States. First of all, he was through reform because he really started reformation of Russia when he came to the power after the Stalin death. And secondly, my father was on 2 wars, and he even could not watch movie about the war because it came back in his memory what really happened, and he couldn't sleep after this. So he wanted to show to the new president his positive feeling toward the United States. While Khrushchev's goodwill gestures appeared to signal a desire for a new beginning, Kennedy placed greater emphasis on an inflammatory speech the Soviet leader had given only a few weeks earlier. In it, Khrushchev had said he intended to beat the United States with small wars of liberation all over the world.
What you see going on all over the world now? President Obama brought out our sons and daughters back home. Donald Trump and them say he shouldn't have done that. Of course, Donald Trump's best buddy is Vladimir Putin, at least one of them. And I think he's pretty tight with the North Korean fellow over there, Kim Jong-un. Huh? He pretty tight with everybody that outside of the country, huh? But in the country, he finds fault with everybody. The Mexicans is rapists. The black people is freeloaders, and worse. And we got the well, in their private circles, the nigga in the White House ain't no American citizen. Huh? But everybody outside of it, he wants to put nuclear weapons in the hands of everybody. Well, let's listen now. Now, President Kennedy, he didn't buy all that flattery. He remembered a speech that was given 3 weeks before that. Do you suppose Donald Trump would have paid that any attention? Okay. Now, let's get back. Y'all might want to go on YouTube and find that on YouTube. A president, JFK, a president betrayed. Now, as Donald Trump said, he gonna give the generals 30 days to come up with a solution to In other words, he gonna let the generals be president. The generals haven't been training for diplomacy. They've been training to make war. Diplomacy ain't their job. Is when diplomacy break down, then we'll go and do what diplomacy couldn't do. So what is he talking about? He gonna look to them for a solution. Then why is he running for president? Let me tell you something. Would you send a boy to go deal with men? That's what these people are trying to do. No, I don't mean that as no insult. Go into an arena that you are not familiar with. I don't care if your IQ is 250. When you go into an arena that you have no knowledge of, you are immediately reduced to a child. And everyone that's knowledgeable of that arena and how it works has you at a disadvantage. And he said, well, he can take him some advisors in there with him. Advisors advice only work in an adult arena when they dealing with another adult and advising that adult. A child does not take advisors for what they are. When they advise the child considers it in order. You remember when he said that when he was in that briefing, he could tell. Now these are his words. That the people who briefed President Obama on ISIS and on Syria and all of that, that he could tell by their body language that they didn't like it that he didn't follow their advice. The head of the CIA came out there and said, "That's not true. That's not. We don't give advice. We give information." That man is a liar. That's how he has conducted his business into bankruptcy after bankruptcy after bankruptcy. Now, watch Miss Clinton. I'm going to try not to cut it off now, except to comment on their disrespect.
I'm not going to in any way suggest that he or the embassy got everything they requested. We know that they didn't, from the Accountability Review Board, from investigations that were done by the Congress.
We will certainly never know what the outcome would have been if there had been more agents that night.
Well, that's not what the professionals, that's not what the experts in security have concluded. If you read the Accountability Review Board.
I read it, Secretary Clinton, it says that security was grossly inadequate.
Well, it said that there were deficiencies within 2 bureaus in the State Department, which we have moved to correct. Another email from the Ops Center that was forwarded to you from Ms. Abedin on Sunday, April 10th. So he had done.
Now, before I let her go on, remember, it finally came out that Congress had defunded, had cut the funds on embassies. You know, kind of like when they did when they refused to pay the debt, and the America defaulted on the credit, and they tried to blame who for that? They defund and then sit back knowing that you ain't got the funds to pay more than what, you know, to pay the people. You know, you're going to have a skeleton crew. If you got 200 and some embassies. But then they try to, you know, they done made the people so dumb that we ain't supposed to see through that. The president couldn't even get them to pay on time the debts that they okayed. They tried to make it look like he was just asking for more money. And I'm so glad he came out there and told everybody what the debt ceiling is. He said, ain't nobody asking for more money. Congress made these bills, and they are due. And they need to raise, they made the bill, now they need to pay the bill. I'm waiting on some of these smart people that know more about this than I do. Come on up and tell us that whatever I got wrong, come and straighten it out. And if I don't have it wrong, why are you pushing a lie? The one thing, I ain't into this Democrat-Republican thing, but the truth is the truth. The country didn't get in bad shape under the Democrats. The Republicans left it in a mess. And the Democrats came and have cleaned it up quite a bit. Now the Republicans said give it back to them so they can mess it up better next time where it can't be cleaned up. Look who they got as their front runner. The king of debt. That's what he called himself. Do you know what you got to be? He telling you who he is. That's his self-proclaimed title. He's the king of debt. In other words, he owed more people than Carter got liver pills. When you're in debt, you owe people. Is that right? What has he promised the people that he owed in order for them to forgive his debt? You find that out when you put him in there. All right. He owe all these. He's the king of debt. By his own mouth, he said that. What did you think that meant? Then I told you the man won't release his tax returns. Why? Because you're bound to find out that he really is the king. I ain't never met a con man yet that wasn't likable to the people he conned. You ask too many questions, he cuss you out. He tell you, I ain't got to listen to this. I'm out of here. But the next person he go to, he's sweet again. And as long as they go for what he's talking about, he seemed like the nicest fellow. Don't watch him when he's dealing with people that he conned. Watch him when he's dealing with somebody that he couldn't con. That's how you find out what kind of person he really is. All right. See if you can get Donald Jr. in here. He seemed to always got something to say.
For about 5 days, and it indicates that the situation in Ajdabiya had worsened to the point where Stevens is considering departing from Benghazi. This is within 5 days of him going in. Were you aware of that concern within the first 5 days that he had gone in? And did anyone share that with you?
Yes,
did share that with
we were aware because we were really counting on Chris.
If Ambassador Stevens was considering leaving, it was his decision. He made the decision not to leave. What are they trying to blame Ms. Clinton for? Well, you see why it didn't go nowhere. Where they wanted it to go was into the minds of ignorant. Where do you think they get this talking about Ms. Clinton can't be trusted from? Where do you think they get that from? These witch hunt hearings? Designed for one purpose, is to put her in a negative in your mind. Proved she did anything wrong. But now all of a sudden, you don't trust her. And then when I ask some of you to come in here and tell me why you don't trust her, you too ashamed to say that because I saw it and saw all these lies and I bought that. Because you ain't got no proof that she's ever been dishonest with you. And I'm going to tell you something else. They tried to make that thing that when they first started talking about it, that it was because of some movie or something. What was it about? A movie or something that they said that characterized the prophet some kind of way? And they try to say that she deliberately misled the American people. What happened when Salman Rushdie wrote a book called Satanic Verses? What happened to Salman Rushdie? They put $1 million, these same people, fanatics, put $1 million bounty. So everybody knew that these people, they are fanatical. It's just like, you say something about Jesus, you can say anything you want about Jesus. Don't nobody want to do nothing to you. Say anything you want about Moses or whatever. And very few people have anything to say. You say something about Muhammad in a negative way, and now they want to kill you. Why? We don't make no distinction between any of the prophets. Why you don't want to kill somebody if they say something about Jesus? Or Moses? You're a bunch of hypocrites. If you don't believe in all of the prophets equally, you don't believe in none of them. You're just a one-eyed liar. So, you know, and I tell you to your face. You want to destroy a country, America, that is more Muslim than any other country on the face of the earth. Look at what the Holy Quran says about freedom. No compulsion. And then you fall out with America because America does not try to force religion on anybody. If you're religious in America, it's because you chose to be. Not because somebody forced you. How many other countries can claim that? Well, you know, I think France and all of them, they are tolerant. Most of the European people, they live by pretty much the same code of tolerance. But America is a microcosm of the whole planet. And you notice in America, for the most part, people from everywhere is somehow, not all the time, but for the most part, agreeing to get along with each other. And if it could be done in America, it could be done all over the earth. And the only reason it's not being done to its fullest degree in America is because we have people who like to stoke the fires of racism and magnify the differences in people and make those differences greater than they really are. Just like in the Willie Lynch speech. He said, take their differences and make them bigger. Put the old against the young and the young against the old. But now they just switched it up a little bit. Put the black against the white and the white against the black and the black against the yellow and the yellow against the black and everybody against each other. Keep them divided, and you can rule all up. Divide and conquer. Huh? Well, I ain't playing your game. No. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this. Some of his last words was, he said, we can no longer go around making mock of one another. He said, cut it out. We're all brothers and sisters. Is it any of y'all that if we dug up everything that you've been doing, have you been righteous? Well, if you haven't been righteous, what qualifies you to judge somebody else? If you need to be shown mercy and need to be forgiven, why you don't think nobody else should be forgiven? Well, they forced this on us. Okay, you know they forced it on you. Now they ain't forcing it on you and you still holding on to it. So now whose fault is that? The messenger said that. He just said it in another way. He said, he He's not holding you now. You holding yourself. You don't need to blame him now. Blame yourself. Look at you. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad started us on the road to independence, had us importing and exporting our own fish, our own sardines, had us where we could do business and get shoes and everything else as an independent nation. And when he wasn't here no more, it didn't take you a year to give all that up and go right back to being a home-born slave. And starting to go back to blaming white people because you won't get up and do for yourself. I'm not blaming them now. I'm blaming us. All we got to do is unite, pool our resources, and look at what they're doing, and do the same thing for ourselves. You know what the biggest problem in this whole world? The leaders of the people causing the people to go wrong. And you know, there's a famous saying, well, if I don't do it, somebody else will. Drug dealers say it. Everybody that do wrong to their fellow human being, they always say, well, and somebody else gonna do it. If I don't do it, so, you know, it ain't gonna do no good. Their devils always make their evil fair seeming to them. So, but look at how composed Ms. Clinton is and respectful to people who are disrespecting her.
To guide us. Did you ever personally speak to him after you swore him in May? Yes or no, please? Yes, I believe I did. But when was that? I don't recall, and I want to clarify for the record that this document is about all of Libya, not just Benghazi. I don't want any.
I could ask them, did they ever speak to Ms. Clinton about anything after they swore her in? Ask the average one of them, how did they get in Washington? And they would tell you that the people voted them in there, right? And that's, how many of the people that voted you in there have you spoken to since you got voted in? It is not Ms. Clinton's job to hold the hand of every ambassador in all of the 200 and some embassies that they have. It's her job after, whenever they have a need for something or whatnot, whatever's in her ability to help them with, they contact her and she do her best to get it done. But that's the embassy ambassador is his own boss. Now, Ms. Clinton's job is not to micromanage every embassy. What you need an ambassador for if you want her to manage the ambassador? You know, you know, when people ask certain questions, it shows you how knowledgeable or how unknowledgeable they are. She's making an accusation that makes no sense. She's talking about Ambassador Stevens like he was a child. Ambassador Stevens was far from being a child. That was a wise young man. And you'll be able to see how he dealt with some of the questions that people was asking him about what's going on in Libya. That man wasn't no fool. But look, the best ambassadors don't see everything. If that was the case, when Jimmy Carter was president, the Iranian embassy hostage situation wouldn't have happened. I didn't hear nobody blaming the Secretary of State for that. This was done to prepare for what they wanted to do. You don't have to be no rocket scientist to figure out who they really wanted to put in the White House. Who did the news media start off pushing from the very beginning? Donald Trump. They started slandering Miss Clinton and pushing Trump, right? So just wait.
Everybody, 77 or something. You know, Congresswoman, look, I appreciate, and I really do, the passion and the intensity of your feelings about this. We have diplomatic facilities in war zones. We have ambassadors that we send to places that have been bombed and attacked all the time. And you're their boss. That's right. You're right, I am. You're their leader.
Now, why did she cut her off? Yes, she's their boss. But what has that got to do with listening to Ms. Clinton answer her questions? Now, I want some of you all who keep on saying Ms. Clinton is a liar and I notice I don't never hear you say Donald Trump is a liar. And frankly, I'm sick of it. Miss Clinton has more sincerity in her little finger than Donald Trump got in his whole body. She had with President Obama, for instance, after that election. Them differences been gone. And, it's just, politics is one thing. There's a lot of lying going on in politics. I know that. But it's called gamesmanship. But it has certain lines that they don't cross. Here on the one hand, you accept all of the falsehoods that's presented to you about the character of Ms. Clinton. But the self-evident truths about Donald Trump and his lawsuits that people have against him, his bankruptcies, his wife plastered nude pictures over the thing. You ignore all of that. And you claim that you love America. And that's the kind of people you want to put out there to represent America. You are liars. What kind of people did I tell you support liars? Other liars. Did I lie? Anybody printing anything, brother? Where's Brother Jamal? Anybody saying something? Now, watch this disrespect that these people showing. Now, are you aware that as far as I know, the Secretary of State is even in line for the presidency if certain things happen? Is she third or is she fourth after the speaker? One of y'all find out for me. But anyway, I mean, this woman is outranked by Miss Clinton, actually. You know, in a way, because as she just told her, Miss Clinton is the boss of all them ambassadors. Is that right? Even though she's a member of the body that is a third arm of the government of America, but her by herself, she is blatantly misrepresenting the dignity of that body in the way that she is questioning Miss Clinton. She's fourth. Yes. I thought I was pretty close there.
Is that correct? Are there situations where you recall, and I'd like to know what the conversation was with Ambassador Stevens and what month it was with Ambassador Stevens, because there are no call logs with him. There's nothing from the Ops Center with him that we have found. We have no record that you had any conversations with the ambassador.
Now, why would she single out one ambassador differently, to treat differently than all the other ambassadors all over the world? Up to the Secretary of State to check on the ambassador. It's up to the ambassador to touch bases back home when necessary, that in his judgment. Unless y'all know something I don't. Do you know what leadership you get? The more you have to be able to delegate authority. Because any leader that does not know how to delegate authority has no business in the position of leadership. Because whenever you are trying to micromanage everything, you wind up messing up everything. You gonna claim to know more about a situation, and you thousands of miles away, and you want to try to tell somebody how to conduct themselves, and they right there seeing what's going on, and you gonna call them and tell them what to do? If the ambassador needed someone to call him and tell him what to do, he didn't have no business over there. Just a minute. Just listen to this. This stuff is just ridiculous.
After you swore him in and before he died, and you were his boss. I was the boss of ambassadors in 270 countries. Sitting here in the comfort of this large, beautiful hearing room, it's easy to say, well, there should have been. Somebody should have stood up and said, do that. But that was not the case. We do and have done the best we can. Everyone who knew him, everyone who worked with him, including Libyans, as I said at the very beginning, would have given anything to prevent this from happening. Our security professionals usually, in fact, more than 99+% of the time, get it right. And
now I want to say, if you had a just mind, you would have saw through this and told them people they need to shut their mouth. Don't pretend that they care about the ambassador. She does care. That I could tell. They didn't. You know how I know? Because 4,000, not 4,000 troops died in Iraq fighting a war that never should have happened. And these same people didn't conduct no inquiry into the fact that they had been lied to, the Congress had been lied to about weapons of mass destruction. But now they want to get all up in arms and pretend that they so upset about something that couldn't have. It wasn't nothing that nobody could have did about that. Senator Stevens and those security people with him didn't see coming what happened. He knew things was getting rough over there. That's why he said that he was thinking about leaving. Thinking about leaving. He just didn't make up his mind. Because that's always going to be the call of the one who's there. Do I need to stay, or do I need to tell them I better get out of here? Huh? Let's listen to some more.
Madam Secretary, if we would have given anything, had you talked to him in July, he would have told you that he had asked to keep the security in Libya that he had. He was told no by your State Department. We didn't give him everything. Thank you. I yield.
She right when she said we didn't give him everything. Why did they take the security away? It was defunded. And to show you how big Miss Clinton was back at them. Whenever staff is cut, why? If they didn't think they needed that staff, it wouldn't have been there in the first place. Then why cut the staff? Because Congress cut the funding. You got people in this government that hate America. You need to, and they being flushed out. You getting a chance to see them. It's up to you what you do about it. Vote all them liars out of there. I didn't say kill them. I said vote them out.
Jolie's out of town. The witness may answer the question if she'd like to.
Well, it's the same answer I've been giving all day. Chris Stevens had an opportunity to reach me directly anytime he thought there was something of importance. The people with whom he worked, the people who were around him and with him, they very well understood the dangers that they were confronting, and they did the best they could under the circumstances, and many of the security requests, as I just detailed, were agreed to, others weren't.
So Ambassador Stevens didn't have your email, is that correct? Your personal email?
I'm sorry, what did you ask me?
Ambassador Stevens did not have your personal email address. We've established that.
Yes, that's right.
Did he have your cell phone number?
Nobody had the 24-hour number of the state operations in the State Department that can reach me 24/7.
Yes, ma'am. Did he have your fax number?
He had the fax number of the State Department.
1998, here.
He's suggesting that the Secretary of State supposed to give out her cell phone to every ambassador in 270 countries. That's what the State Department is for, to be able to reach her. Why did he imply that she's supposed to, the man's supposed to have her personal number? Why should he have her personal number? Okay, let me let you get a view of the man that they're talking about, and then you tell me what you think about him. Let's see here.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Chris Stevens. I got in from Benghazi a couple of days ago. I'm in town for consultations in the department. Just briefly, I'll say a few words at the top. I've been in Benghazi for about 4 months now. We got there April 5th. It was difficult to get in there at the time. There weren't any flights, so we came in by a Greek cargo ship and unloaded our gear and our cars and set up our office there. So we've been on the ground since then. My mandate was to go out and meet as many of the leadership as I could in the TNC. They've got their council, which is sort of their legislature, and they've got a sort of a cabinet. So I've met just about everybody in those two institutions, and then I've gone around and with our small team and tried to get to know other people in the.
The TNC is the Transitional National Council. That's what was set up to help Libya after Gaddafi. You know, the Libyan people come together in a council to transition into a form of democracy or whatnot that suits them.
In the society there. Of course, we operate in eastern Libya, not the part that Gaddafi controls. The immediate concern when we got there was that Gaddafi's forces had almost infiltrated and taken over Benghazi, but were pushed out by NATO. And since then, the situation has improved quite a bit. Real briefly, I'll say that in the last 4 months, my strong impression is that the TNC are making progress. And I sort of break it down into 3 areas. Diplomatically, they've made tremendous progress since April, gaining international recognition now from about 30 countries, including significantly our own. This helps them in the eyes of the world, in the eyes of their own people, in the eyes of the Libyan people who are still under Gaddafi's rule, and it also helps them in the sense that increases pressure on Gaddafi. They've made progress. And when we got there, they were really in a precarious situation because they didn't have funds to pay for food, medicine, fuel, to keep the power generators going, to keep the lights on. And since then, a number of countries have come forth and offered loans, most recently Turkey and Qatar and the UAE and Kuwait. And of course, with political recognition, they're hopeful that they'll be able to gain access to the frozen assets around the world. And then, last, I would say militarily, although it's been slow, they're also making progress gaining territory from Gaddafi. And the way I sort of break it down is, there are three battlefronts. There's the Western Mountains, where they've got fighters, inching their way towards Tripoli. There's the Misrata front on the coast, where they've not only fought off Gaddafi's forces successfully, but they're also pushing west up the coast towards Tripoli. I understand they're getting close to Zliten, which is a significant town. And then closer to where I am, there's Brega, and they made a push just as I was leaving Benghazi towards Brega, where they're now encountering difficulty with landmines, unfortunately. Hopefully they can get through those. Now, I don't want to paint an overly rosy picture because there are also challenges inside the TNC-controlled area, and one of them is security. There was a security vacuum when the regime fell, and they had to stand up very quickly this organization called the TNC. The police, for the most part, just left their posts because they were afraid of popular reaction against them because they committed abuses in the early days against the people. So there's hardly any police around. And because of that vacuum, form and step in. And so, looking after the security of Benghazi and eastern Libya, you've got a lot of militias and a few police. And this has, led to some security challenges that you've already read about and know about, I'm sure. And the TNC is working to address these problems. We flagged the problems with them. The British, the French, other diplomatic missions there are, sort of keeping the pressure on the TNC to get their arms around the militia problem, so that they can provide better security as they try to move forward to Tripoli and.
Excuse me for cutting Ambassador Stevens off, but video got 815 views. See, they need to paint a picture that he was some helpless somebody. He was helpless or stupid. Or that he needed somebody to hold his hand. The young man was a brilliant young man. A wise choice for an ambassador. And instead of trying to go after what they could do better, they decide they want to go after the Secretary of State because they ain't never stopped running the elections. Every time an election is over with, they start ready for the next one. They'll never take care of business for the country. That is a sign. People behind the closed doors are trying to take charge of America from within to undermine and overthrow this nation. Otherwise, when an election is over, they would get busy doing what's best for the country. Recognizing that, okay, the people unspoke, let's put the election behind us and go on and take care of some business, right? No. They immediately starts up with the propaganda and stuff and looking for something to condemn the people that's in there that they didn't want in there, and let's see if we can undermine them and don't make no progress, and which is what they want. They want to just keep you at each other. Stop playing into that. You better wake up. I know I woke up. And if you keep coming listening to me, I'll wake you up.
And hopefully to Gaddafi's departure. Thank you very much. I'm happy to take questions.
Hi, Kurt Radio with ABC News. I had a question for you about the numerous reports of the fracturing within the TNC and some different factions that have been potentially clashing against each other, most notably in the case of the security official who was assassinated the other day. I was curious if you had any insight into just how fractured the TNC might be and what the U.S. is doing to help unify them.
Yeah, my impression is really a little bit different. The TNC really is a reflection of Libyan society. Libyan society is not monolithic. It's made up of lots of different people, lots of groups, different points of view. So, you know, this was never a monolithic group that we were dealing with, and I realized that from the start, you know, of our mission, and we reported this to channels here. So it's not surprising to me that, you know, there are differences of opinion. The problem, of course, arises when, you know, they express their differences of opinion in a violent way. And with respect to General Yunus's killing, we really don't know who did it. I mean, I know there are some statements out there, but the TNC has set up a committee to look into his killing and to, you know, ascertain what the truth is. So I'm really hesitant to kind of jump to conclusions about whether it was an inside job or a Gaddafi job or anything until, you know, we really know. On your last point, we have gone into the TNC leadership with our partners on the ground there and communicated the view that they really need to,
Now, let it continue a little bit more. I'm going to cut it off because it's late. But during that whole interview, you'll never hear him mention Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. He knows his job. He knows what he's there for. And he was not looking for her to hold his hand. And they try to make it look like she dropped him off over there and didn't check on him. And then if you got to put an ambassador there that you got to keep checking on and tapping on, you got the wrong man there. Put him there to be your eyes and ears. Send messages to him. He send messages to you. So, you know, all that stuff they was doing to my, I don't see no phone records where you conversated with him. So? I'm gonna tell you something. I'm responsible for my followers. And some of my followers' phone records won't show that they hardly ever call me or that I called them. If I'm teaching you and really giving you knowledge when we have these meetings, it ain't very much you need to call me for. That's the purpose of your joining with me. How many times a day do you think about your feet? I mean, what about your knee? How often during the day do you think about your knee? Or do you only think about your foot or your knee or your hand when your hand or your knee or your foot send a message to you that says something wrong here? These people, they're full of it. I'll tell you what, you hear a little bit more from Ambassador Stevens, but you'll see why, that they did, if more people had saw this, they would have saw how big a farce it was for them to be sitting up there trying to make Miss Clinton responsible for what happened to him in Libya. That was an unfortunate incident that the ambassador and his agents didn't see coming. That's all to that.
Be careful about maintaining their unity and keep the focus on Gaddafi's ouster. And they understand that message very well. And they've told us that they are going to work hard to bring the militias under the control of the security ministry, which they've set up, and under the army as well. And hopefully that will work.
Do you have any concern that the fractions that are within the TNC could weaken it to the point where they aren't able to act in any sort of unified way against Gaddafi that would impede their progress or their ability to even provide services as well on both fronts?
No, because the militias that are troublesome are really quite small. The main militias are working in coordination with the TNC leadership and under the leadership of the defense ministry there. That's the first point. The second point is militias. There are any number of them, and they sprout up all the time. And it's pretty much any time a few guys get together and identify a name to attach to their group. And oftentimes they work only in a neighborhood context. So I don't see them as posing a huge security challenge right now.
Well, sorry, within the militia, those meant within the TNC leadership, any sort of fractionalization within the TNC leadership to either make decisions on behalf of the group or to advance against Gaddafi.
No, I don't see that as an issue. As I said, the main ones are with the TNC, and they're on the front lines, not only in Brega, but also they're sending fighters out to the Western Mountains and to Misrata. So they're with the cause.
Taking.
So I'm sorry that it took so long. You see how much time it takes to teach? And that 3 hours is gone. And I haven't even scratched the surface of what I needed to show you. But I'm not going to overtax you. Let you go on and get you some rest. And we will take this up more Sunday. Okay? Yes. And but I want you all to stop buying. You know, I like that word. I don't hear it hardly used anymore. The young brothers came up with a word. Don't believe the hype. You see, that the news, they call it hype because the news go from here. And like a hypodermic needle, something shooting straight into your vein. And instead of reading newspapers and stuff now, they shoot it straight into your head. But it don't be the truth. Believe the hype. I want to show you the kind of respect that Miss Clinton brought to that arena, to that, they never told you about it. They never tell you how she represented America. And the kind of respect that she got even in places where women are not respected. When she went there, she, by her way of conducting herself, it demanded that they show her respect. And it also spoke well for America. You say, well, You keep on speaking up for America. You just didn't hear the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He called this a great country. When people was talking about taking it from the Indian, he said, well, if one thing I can agree with the white man, the Indian wasn't doing nothing with it but hunting and fishing. He said if he was going to come here and take it away from him and build up a great country like this, I say he should have come here a long time before he did come. And he said, and I didn't say that, not that I hate the Indian. No, I do not. I love the Indian. But he was not smart enough to keep his home. So he let a stranger take it from him. God let a stranger take it from him. And so, at the same time, I want you to understand this, that if we thought that we wanted to see America destroyed, then we would not have said that we want them to supply our needs for 20 to 25 years until we're able to produce those things for ourselves. Does that sound like we thought we wanted to destroy America? Only thing I want to destroy is ignorance. Because ignorance is what's destroying us all. When a man is ignorant, he's a child. And foolishness is bound up in the bosom of a child. But the rod of correction will drive it far from it. So, if it pleases Allah, I will talk with you all again someday. Till then, may Allah grant each of you who believe in His word and hunger and thirst for the understanding of it, may He continue to grant you peace and your families. May Allah's Assalamu alaikum.